The Washington Commanders play their first preseason game this Friday, and the rookies are showing out at training camp. I am Matthew Heiserman, your host of the Rays Hail Report, and today we are joined by Commanders podcaster Louis T. Louis, it's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me, man. It's been fun watching you get busy and start your ascension as a content creator, man. It's been fun watching your journey, man. This is awesome. And yes, football is going to be on our television on Friday evening. Cannot wait.
Absolutely looking forward to it, and I appreciate the kind words. But, getting right into it, earlier today, the Commanders had a joint practice against the New England Patriots, who they're going to be facing off against in their preseason game this Friday. I know you were live doing a reaction to the joint practice. What were some of your main takeaways?
So the offense was solid.
Mhm.
Offensive line obviously has a couple of guys out. No Brandon Coleman, Cosme still on the mend. I don't know exactly what the combination was that they went out there with, whether Wally was at guard or if he was
Mhm.
at tackle. But by all accounts, they were really solid up front. They had some breakdowns, which you would expect. The
Mhm.
interior sounds like the issue.
Yeah.
Laramie Tunzel was phenomenal today, by all accounts. Jayden was good when he had time, but
Mhm.
the receivers not getting the best
Mhm.
separation to be expected without your number one and number three best receivers out there. But all in all, it sounds like the offense had a solid day. The defense, on the other hand,
Mhm.
not so good.
Yeah.
Drake May was really good. They did pick him off at the end, his final possession in red zone work. Bobby Wagner got his hand on the football, tipped it in the air, picked off by Mike Sainristil on a
Mhm.
diving stab. But he was really good, Drake May was today, and really
Mhm.
was accurate with the football. A lot of guys open today.
Mhm.
Same could be said for the second team defense. Josh Dobbs, 18 of 22 today with 2 touchdown tosses. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not what you want to hear. So
Mhm.
between the two quarterbacks, I think Drake May had 11 completions. Dobbs had 18. It's 29 completions. I think Drake May had 14 attempts. I think he was 11
Mhm.
of 14, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Um, Dobbs 18 and 21. So you're talking about 29 of 30,
Mhm.
5 or
Yeah.
whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, that's almost 80%. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous completion percentage. So the defense don't really know if the pressure wasn't there or if because it's a joint practice, you can't touch the quarterback, that might not have gotten the ball off.
Mhm.
Secondary obviously wasn't good, but there's context to all of that. So I
Mhm.
want to see what some of the beat reporters say. But the biggest takeaway is that the defense needs work, which is what we
Yeah.
thought, and the offense is good, which is what we thought as well.
Mhm. And if you're tuning in, make sure you like and subscribe. It's completely free. Helps the channel grow significantly.
Mhm.
And then on Monday, Washington released their first unofficial depth chart. What kind of stood out to you about that depth chart? Were there any things that surprised you?
I don't think there was anything really earth-shattering about the depth chart. It's just nice to see where they have these guys initially on the depth chart. But
Mhm.
again, a lot of it is for the purposes of motivation. This
Mhm.
first one is so, for instance, a great example of them motivating a rookie is that they have Jalen Lane as the second primary punt returner, a
Mhm.
secondary punt returner, I
Yeah.
should say. We all know he's the primary punt returner. They
Mhm.
drafted him to be that. He's fielded the most punts in camp to this point, but they have him behind KJ Osborne. We all know that's not going to be the
Mhm.
case.
Yeah.
Um, Josh Connolly Jr., they have him behind Andrew Wiley, but it says or, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Josh Connolly, Andrew Wiley or Josh Connolly. So it's like more motivation. And so you see a lot of that. Something else that jumped out was how far back, or another thing was Bill, Jacory Croskey-Merritt,
Mhm.
fifth at running back on the depth chart, which we all know he's not the fifth best running back on this team at this current juncture. And he's going to make the team, right? But
Mhm.
that's what they do to the rookies to motivate them. And
Mhm.
then something else that stood out was Sam Hartman all the way at
Yeah.
4 on the
Yeah.
quarterback depth chart, which I went into camp saying that there's a real battle at QB3. They want Hartman to win that battle, but he's going to have to beat out the 39-year-old veteran Josh Johnson, and I don't know if he's necessarily doing a great job of doing that to this point.
And then you talked about Josh Connerly Jr., who was one of those guys who was behind Andrew Wiley. And I kind of just want to ask, what have you seen so far from him in training camp? I want to go through all the rookies, just talk about them a little bit. What have you seen from him? And then also that Brandon Coleman injury, he wasn't out there today. If Wiley moves into that spot, does that kind of give Connerly a chance to really get all the reps with the starters going forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's been the case when, like Laramie Tunzel, for instance, has had a couple of vet rest days. And when that happens, Wiley shifts over to the left side, which gives Connerly the opportunity to get more reps with the ones at right tackle. So anytime they can get an opportunity, which is why I believe, and I can't confirm this because I wasn't out there and no one actually reported this, but my guess is Wiley moved inside the guard and Connerly slid into the right tackle position with no Coleman today. So would give them a 5 that they would feel confident in, and also give Josh Connerly Jr. more reps with the starters at right tackle. So he's been solid. The thing that we don't take into consideration as fans is he has to make adjustments. One, from left to right. He wasn't a right tackle. He's a left tackle. So all of your body posturing, all of your muscle memory from being on the left side changes. Your kick step changes. Everything flips to the opposite side. So there was a lot of transition for that. He talked about being away from home, right, for the first time. He talked about practicing in the morning, which is something that his body was not accustomed to. So there was a lot of things he had to get kind of used to and adjust to. Now feels like he's gotten his legs under him. He is a lot more confident in being on the right side. He talked about that. So did Cliff Kingsbury, who said he feels like he's really starting to assimilate himself well on the right side. And then he also talked about the technical side of things, that's where he now has to improve. The athleticism is there, the movement skills are there. It's now just being technical, and I think that's just going to come with more reps. And so, do I think that with Coleman being out, will that give him more opportunities? Absolutely. I think that's what they did today. That's my guess. I'm not sure about that, but anytime he can get out there with the ones, is going to fast track that process to him being the starter come week 1.
100%. And you mentioned the technical stuff, obviously, hand placements, footwork, just stuff like that going forward. But one rookie standout for Washington has been second-round cornerback Trey Amos, who had arguably his best day of camp this past Monday. How has he looked to you so far, as well as the rest of this revamped secondary? And are we at the point where you're confident that this secondary won't continue to be a liability for Washington this season?
So I'll answer those in the reverse order you asked them. So the secondary, I still have questions about because I'm not 100% sure about the safety position. Still want to see, Quan Martin in the second year of this scheme. Will Harris, what is he? Is he really more of a backup that we have starting? Is he really capable of doing the things that we need him to do? Is he even an upgrade over Jeremy Chin from a season ago? I guess time will tell. As far as the corners are concerned, I think that group has a chance to be really, really good. And you mentioned Trey Amos, and he's been one of the standouts of camp, especially on the defensive side. He's been phenomenal. I think this kid has a chance to be one of the better, young corners in the NFL. And so I'm excited to see what he does. We just got word that the Bengals, assuming health, obviously, are going to play their starters in that second preseason game. They're going to play them in the first one, but they're going to play them even more in the second preseason game, which they play Washington on Monday Night Football. I can't wait to see what that looks like because you're going up against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. And you can't get much better work than that. And he's been really good in camp. Marshawn Lattimore, healthy. That's a good sign. Want to see him continue to get back to what he once was in New Orleans. And then, Mikey Samuels still is a wild card because a lot of the damage he did last year was out on the boundary. He started out last season as a nickel. It wasn't all that great,
Yeah. Mhm.
but that's what he came into the league as. So I don't think that that's a big issue. I think he's going to be really good, but I still want to see it.
Mhm.
So this secondary has a chance to be really good. I'm banking on them being one of the stronger points of that defense this year. But as far as Amos is concerned, what a revelation he's been. They said, Adam Peters and company said that they were prepared to spend the very first pick they had, 29 overall,
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
him had Connolly not been available. So to get him where they got him in the second round was a big get for this organization. And he's proven them right to this point. Obviously, we haven't seen him on the field in meaningful action, but so far, so good for Trey Amos. He's been spectacular this summer.
So another rookie who has really shined is fourth round receiver Jayden Lane. And you touched earlier on how Lane is going to be this team's primary punt returner, which we've obviously seen during training camp, even if he's not the number one guy on the depth chart. But what role will he have on this team? What kind of production can he provide on the receiving end as well, especially if McLaurin's deal doesn't get worked out?
So for him, I view him as a Debo Samuel type of receiver.
Mm, mhm,
So I think in their mind, he can learn from Debo this year,
mhm,
really become a better version of Debo as a receiver, not
mhm.
necessarily run after catch, because we
Yeah.
know Debo
Yep.
is a dynamo with the ball in his hands. But can he be a better version of a Swiss Army knife as a
Mhm,
receiver in the receiver
mhm,
department? Cliff Kingsbury at his press conference the other day said that Jalen Lane is a lot better receiver than what he had envisioned him being, because you didn't get to see him do a lot of the things that he's doing in camp
mhm.
on film, because at Virginia Tech, they just didn't utilize him in that
Yeah.
fashion, right?
Mhm,
You had to go back to his Middle Tennessee State days
mhm,
if you wanted to see
mhm,
him, make some of those plays, because they just didn't give him an opportunity in that offense. Some of it was the quarterback, some of it was the play calling, but everything was short, or it was getting his hands immediately, or it was a deep over route. You really didn't get to see him run a route tree. Well, Cliff's like, he runs the entire route tree. He's a
mhm.
smart kid, son of a coach. You tell him one time, he's got it. And so I think he's a quick study, a guy that can easily hit the field earlier in his rookie season than many of us, probably project him to. They're going to have a package for him to get him some touches, whether it's something quick like a wide receiver screen or jet sweep or something
Mhm,
like that, where they just try to get it in his hands. But he's also a guy that can stretch the football field vertically. He's
mhm.
had the play of camp to this point, that catch in the end zone over two defenders. So he's a guy that I think quietly could be one of those guys that makes plays this season that we're not really talking all that much about.
And you mentioned the route tree. I really think he can thrive with go routes as well because, Washington kind of lacks that really speedy receiver.
Mhm.
Terry, great with contested catches. I don't know if he's really gonna be that long distance guy. Same with Debo. Noah Brown's older, and then even the younger guys, right? Luke McCaffrey's more utilized in the slot. Jacory Brooks ran a 4.65 40. He's not necessarily gonna be the fastest guy. Lane ran a 4.34. So I
Mhm.
think he's probably the best bet to be that go route guy, that vertical guy who can stretch the field, as you mentioned,
Yep.
for Washington this upcoming season. And then I think the player who's been least talked about so far is fifth or sixth round linebacker Kane Madrano out of UCLA. What have you heard about Madrano? How much playing time can we expect him to get as a rookie in this really crowded linebacker room? Obviously with Wagner, Luvu, Jordan McGee, and then Dominique Hampton, who
Mhm.
switched over from safety.
Yep. I think that's why he's the least talked about, is because of the 5 draft picks from this year. He's the one guy that I don't think anyone sees a path to him getting on the field and
Yeah.
being a key contributor in year one. His path to playing is special teams. If he can carve
Mm,
out a niche for himself on special teams, that's how he's going to be active on Sundays this season. Otherwise, he'll be like Dominique Hampton was a year ago and just be inactive every single week. He's making the team. They're not cutting one of their draft picks, but
Yeah.
the fact is, if he's not contributing on special teams, there's nowhere for him to be on the field at this current juncture, as you mentioned, in a linebacker room that featured 2 All Pros
Mhm.
from a season ago.
Yeah.
So, and McGee is a guy they have high hopes for. So, Madrano today at the joint practice, a couple of times found himself in the right spot. They weren't taking, guys to the ground, so you don't know if he was going to make the tackle or not. It's good to hear that he's aware, he knows where to be, and we
Mhm.
know he has the athleticism and the speed to get there. But his biggest Achilles heel in college was tackling. So
Yeah.
the fact that he was in the right spot is good,
Yeah.
but we saw that in college. He was in the right
Mhm.
spot and still didn't get guys on the ground.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
until we actually see him getting guys on the ground and being able to say, hey, he's gotten past the missed tackles thing. And DQ even talked about that in his press conference before the joint practice today. Like,
Mhm.
I want to see linebackers tackle people in the game on Friday, because he
Mhm.
hasn't seen it all summer. So Madrano is one of those guys that falls into that category. I think the reason, as you mentioned, he's the least talked about is because
Mhm.
there's just, of the 5 draft picks, he's the one that has the least amount of chance to be a starter at any point this season, right? The other 4, 3 of them are already probably penciled in as starters before week 1, and the 4th that we're about to talk about
Mhm.
may see an opportunity maybe
Yeah.
later on in the season. So Madrano doesn't fall into that category right now, but he can carve out a niche for himself on special teams.
And then that 5th guy, Jacory, Croskey-Merritt, Bill, he was the 5th wide receiver on the depth chart. He's had arguably the top rookie performance at training camp so far, despite being the 7th round pick. What have you seen from him? What has stood out about his play style? Could he emerge as that starter, as you mentioned?
Well, the thing that has jumped out is the
Mhm.
speed, right? The ability to get vertical, something that we haven't seen from a running back here in
Yeah.
quite some time. And
Yeah.
um, that was something that some people questioned with him. The 4.44 speed
Mhm.
is fast, but how fast are you really? Because on
Mhm.
tape, it's not like he was blowing by people on tape,
Yeah.
but you could see him break away from time to time. And what I've been told is that the speed is definitely there. That's a real thing. And the quickness was always something that I felt like was one of his strengths, along with
Mhm.
um, contact balance, which is one of my favorite attributes to look at with running backs. Is, can you play through contact? Because in this league, you are
Mhm.
going to get contacted. What you do with that contact is going to separate you from the bunch. And we haven't really been able to see that, other than the one hit that he took from Tyler Owens, stayed on his feet, but Owens wasn't looking to take him to the ground, obviously, because they're not taking players to the ground. So can
Mhm.
he showcase that in a live game setting, which we'll see on Friday? He's caught it out of the backfield. I heard his pass pro has continued to improve throughout camp.
Mhm.
So that's going to be another way he can get on the field, is if he can protect the quarterback, catch it out of the backfield, which was something that he really wasn't given an opportunity to do in college. So catching the ball is good if he's doing that in camp, which he's done. And obviously the ability to make guys miss in tight, confined spaces, which
Mhm.
is something he excelled at in college. And then being able to get to that second level and utilize that speed, that's something that we're excited about. Looking forward to
Mhm.
seeing that in the preseason. And if it goes well, we could see that sooner rather than later in the regular season.
Now, everybody's gassing up Bill and what he's done so far in training camp,
Yeah.
but does it concern you on the other side, the fact that it feels like every single day we're seeing Washington's defense allow this type of run from their 7th round pick?
Mhm. Not necessarily, because sometimes you don't know who's actually in, on some of these. It could be first team against
Mhm.
second team.
Mhm.
If the first team defense could be out there, but again, we don't know how these runs might have actually gone if you're taking guys to the ground, if they're looking to be a little bit more physical. So it's always hard with the run game in training camp, because they're trying to protect each other. We'll get a better sense of what the defense is doing, because by all accounts today, the run defense was pretty solid. They did give up
Mhm.
one big run to the outside, which was our Achilles heel last year. Anything out off the outside to the edges were an issue for us. But for the most part, the run defense has been fine this summer. We'll see what it looks like as we get into the preseason, but not really concerned about the defense yet.
Mhm.
It's, early. I want to see what it looks like, but I'm not going to give the defense the benefit of the doubt like I did last year
Yeah.
going in, just because I gave so much credence to Dan Quinn, Joe Witt
Mhm.
Jr. coming over, their defensive backgrounds. This defense going to be whipped into shape. And it wasn't. And it never really did last season get to the point where you could rely on them and lean on them. I'm excited to see Bill. And I'm excited to see if all the changes that they made on the defensive side of the football, lend itself to this defense being much better than it was a season ago.
Mhm. And then I haven't obviously asked anything about McLaurin yet because not much has changed with those negotiations,
Yeah.
since when I last talked about it, but
Mhm.
one thing I wanna ask is, it feels like Washington obviously has a lot of leverage on him
Mhm.
right now, but I think one of my main observations from camp so far is that this offense has struggled, or this wide receiver room
Mhm.
has struggled a little more without McLaurin, which is to be expected.
Mhm.
But you have Debo, whose prime was 3 years ago. Maybe he can return there. We'll see. Noah Brown is 29 years old. You have a bunch of younger guys. Do you think if this standoff continues, towards the start of the season, is there a chance Washington caves in, just understanding that we need to, extend our best receiver just for this offense to be able to be productive this year?
Sure. Absolutely, that
Mhm,
could be the case. I mean, I always, and I've been talking about this all season. I just go
mhm,
back to Adam Peters's stint in San Francisco and how the 49ers
mhm.
conducted business. And
Yeah.
a lot of their deals got done mid to late August, early September, right before the season starts. Like,
Mhm,
you try and play that game. You hope that in this game of chicken, um, the receiver or the player swerves
mhm.
first, right? They blink
Yeah.
first in that staring contest. And a lot of times the team can't put themselves in a position where you, at the expense of
Mhm,
trying to be right in the situation,
mhm.
expose 52 other guys to the negotiations of a contract of one guy that can
Yeah.
really help the team. And so they understand, like, okay, we've strung this out as far as we can. Let's get this guy in here and let's play some ball. And so I think eventually we will get to a point where both sides figure this thing out. It's taken a lot longer than any of us envisioned. I was hoping that this was done
Mhm,
prior to camp, because this has been a almost flawless offseason for the Commanders. And then
mhm.
you get to this situation, it's the one black eye on the organization. It's the first adversity that Adam Peters and this organization, as this new
Yeah.
conglomerate, has faced.
Yeah.
And obviously, Jayden Daniels needs his number one target. It's made it even worse and exacerbated the problem that Noah Brown's been in and out of the lineup. And
Mhm.
so you're down your number one receiver and the guy that's going to be your third best wide receiver. And it's really shown. It's shown in camp, and it even reared its head today at the joint practice with the Patriots. They really need to find a way to get this thing resolved so that they can get those reps and get that offense going in the right direction.
Absolutely. If you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe button on the road to 150 subs before the start of the 2025 season. And then one guy that that Cliff Kingsbury has really hyped up recently is Luke McCaffrey, who I think has kind of had an up and down training camp where he's going to be a great guy in practice. He just didn't really show it in the games last year. He had 18 receptions, 168 receiving yards. Are we poised for a Luke McCaffrey breakout year in year 2?
We're hoping so. I
Mhm.
mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if the opportunities will present themselves or not, assuming Terry's healthy, Debo's healthy, Noah's healthy, Jalen Lane's healthy. Um, I don't know where you see Luke McCaffrey being in the pecking order, but
Mhm.
if you just look at those three receivers and then you factor in the run game and Zach Ertz, he's
Mhm.
pretty far down the list, right? But
Yeah.
obviously, it never goes that way. There's always injuries. There's always different things that
Yeah.
transpire. He's going to see the field. The question is, will he see the football and will he make plays? I believe he's going to surpass his total from his rookie season. I think he's going to be a lot better in year two. Um, He had a nice catch today on the sidelines in the
Mhm.
end zone. I'm not sure if he got his feet in bounds or not, but I think he's going to continue to develop. And what we've heard from everyone close to him
Mhm.
is that he's playing so much faster this year because he knows the position.
Mhm.
He's so much more comfortable. He's gotten stronger, put on about 10 to 15 pounds
Mhm.
from a year ago. So I expect him to be better this year. I really, truly do.
Mhm. And then my final question before we wrap things up, um, first preseason game this Friday. What are you looking out for? What players are going to be paying the most attention to? What do you want to see on that field?
So above all else, stay healthy. That's the
Mhm.
biggest thing, right? You want to come out of this thing the way you go in, and that's healthy. But outside of that, you want to see guys play clean ball. You want to see the second year guys and the rookies in particular are the guys I'm really going to be highlighting. Sam Hartman, want to see if he can go ahead and put a stranglehold. He's going
Yeah.
to play a ton in this game and in the
Mhm.
preseason overall. Can he lock down the number 3 quarterback position, or like last year, is he going to
Mhm.
be cut and stashed away on the practice squad? He's
Mhm.
going to have to win that job. They're not going to give it to him. Can he take care of the football? That's one of the bugaboos. And even Cliff Kingsbury talked about that. He's had an up and down camp because he's had some turnovers they'd like him to cut out. So can he be clean and efficient with his play? Want to see Ben Sinnott, right? It's a guy that you've spent a second round pick on. Can
Yep.
he start to make some plays again? There will be no Zach Ertz in this game. So
Mhm.
Ben Sinnott, it will be out there. Probably won't be any John Bates either. So Ben Sinnott will be out there getting a lot of opportunities. Can he shine in that environment? What do we see from other second year guys? You talked about Dom Hampton. He's going to
Mhm.
get a lot of opportunity to play. I'm very, very disappointed that we're not going to get to see Jordan McGee, but he's mending an injury. Hopefully he's back for the next preseason game. But
Mhm.
all those types of guys are going to have opportunities. Then you look to, and we just talked about Luke McCaffrey. He's going to have opportunities in that game. So you're
Mhm.
looking for all those second year guys. Tyler
Yep.
Owens is going to play a bunch. How well do those guys play? Then you look at the rookies. All of them, with the exception of Trey Amos, more likely than not, going to play in this game. So you're probably going to see, Josh Conley Jr. get some reps in this game. You're definitely going to see Jalen Lane, Kane Madrano, and
Mhm.
Bill get to showcase their skills. What do they look like? These are guys, probably with the exception of Cam Madrano, these are guys that we're going to be counting on in some way,
Mhm.
shape, or form
Yep.
in their rookie season. So what do they look like against guys that aren't going to be starters? I don't think the Patriots are going to put a ton of their starters out there. I could be wrong. Vrabel's there in his first year.
Mhm.
He may be looking to change the culture, may tell the starters, hey, you're going to give me a couple of series before I get you out of there. So they may be
Mhm.
playing against some starters, but more likely than not, they won't be. How does he handle that level of competition? Can he go out there and dominate? We want to see how
Mhm.
these guys perform in that space. And then we talked about the receiver position. Nobody's really stepped up and said, hey, I can step up if there's no Noah Brown, there's no Terry McLaurin. I can be that guy you can rely on. We got veterans, Chris Moore
Mhm.
and Michael Gallup
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
KJ Osborne. Like, what are
Osborne.
these guys
Mhm.
going to do? Right. Then you have the young guys, a bunch of young guys. Jacoby Jones caught a touchdown pass
Mhm.
today. Jacory Brooks caught a
Mhm.
touchdown pass today. You got all these younger receivers that are going to get an opportunity. So, what does that look like? Can anyone separate themselves,
Mhm.
establish themselves, make a name for themselves in this game? These are some of the things that I'll be looking at. Also, the offensive and defensive lines, kind of a log jam in both of those spots. Can anybody separate themselves there? These are all things that I'll be keeping a close, watchful eye on.
And make sure you drop all questions in the chat. I know I said that was the last question, but we
Mhm.
do have one question in the chat from June TV. Lou, how bad do we miss Diame Brown right now? And where would he stand on the current depth chart?
So it's hard to say how much we miss him.
Mhm.
Obviously, he was here 4 years and really didn't do much
Mhm.
until his final year,
The
towards the
playoffs.
end of it, right? That
Yeah.
playoff run was
Mhm.
epic. He started to step up towards the end of the regular season as well. But um, I can't say that we miss him yet. We haven't even seen the wide receiver room at full strength, but I can tell you right now, had he been here, he would probably be your third wide receiver,
Mhm. Mhm.
with a healthy Noah Brown, probably fourth on this roster,
Mhm.
behind Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel, and Noah Brown. So
Mhm.
um, we'll see. I'm hoping that Diami has success in Jacksonville.
Do you think that Brown provides anything that we're not necessarily going to get out of Jalen Lane?
No, because again, to your point, we don't have another guy that offers you that vertical threat.
Mhm.
That was what Diami Brown brought to the table.
Yeah.
You saw it in the Cleveland game when he got behind the defense for the touchdown. You saw it against Detroit in the playoffs. Like, he offers you something that
Mhm.
we don't currently have opposite of Terry, which is just vertical speed that can get over the top and threaten you, scare you. That's what Lane brings to the table. And I think Lane is actually, and Diami was one of the few guys that we felt comfortable throwing the ball to on a hitch, wide receiver screen, and
Mhm.
saying, hey, get some yards after the catch. But Lane is supposed to be even better
Yeah.
than Diami in that regard. So we're hoping that we upgraded the position
Mhm.
with Jalen Lane, but only time will tell.
And with that being said, I can't thank you enough for hopping on. Is there anything you want to say to the people watching before we wrap things up?
No, I just want to say it was a pleasure being on with you,
Mhm.
Matthew. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to come up here and chop it up with you. If you're a Commanders fan, enjoy the season. This is going
Yeah.
to be a lot of fun. Sub up the channel, show some support for Matthew, get him to his goal before the season starts, and hail.
Louis, I appreciate that. And, his channel is linked in the title of this video. Make sure you drop him a sub as well. If you haven't already, if you made it up to this point, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe. It's completely free, helps the channel grow a ton. As always, on the Raise Hail Report, we will see you next time.